Ladies and gentlemen, Sony has finally confirmed the next major PlayStation live stream. It's been a long time coming, but we're finally here, and so now let's do the inevitable. Let's speculate what we can expect, maybe things that are unlikely, all the possibilities. I've got a huge list here that we can go over and talk about for what should be a very exciting live stream. So I think what we'll do here is primarily break this down into three categories, which would be unlikely, possible, as in, could go either way, 50-50 basically, and then also likely. So based on what we know for confirmed, unconfirmed games, rumors, just all the titles that we've been talking about on LTPS for the past year and a half or so, things that I expect them to be at this showcase, which is a smaller list compared to the possible scenario where there's a lot more in there. But let's begin with unlikely, because this is at least a great way to probably set expectations. So at least in my view, I think there's a number of things that we should not be seeing at this upcoming live stream, like for example Santa Monica Studios' second game. So we do know they have a second project. It's allegedly Cory Barlog's game, where a lot of folks are theorizing and speculating that it's a sci-fi project. That's all well and good, but I don't think that game is far along enough to have any kind of reveal in any way. Now, it is something where Sony they don't shy away from doing like small teasers, right, where there's really nothing to go on outside of like a title and maybe a few seconds of pre-rendered cinematic footage, and then we don't see the game for another year and a half, 2 years until they do a proper reveal with gameplay and things like that. So maybe that, but I just don't think that's going to happen. That alongside, things like Ben Studios' new game, so they only just started working on that back in 2021. We do know it's another open world game based on the same systems that were built in Days Gone, but seems a bit too soon for Bend as well. Same with Housemarque, definitely too soon. They shipped Returnal in 2021 with new content in 2022. They're still growing, they need time. Media Molecule, no way. They just started a new project after confirming that they're going to be ceasing new content for Dreams, so going to be a while for them. And in terms of these second-party deals, right, so we can just immediately acknowledge Deviation Games. Now we finally have a good idea that we should not be expecting them anywhere anytime soon, since their project is, not doing too hot. Likely canceled based on all those layoffs. But then there's also the Ballistic Moon project, Project Bates, which that one is technically a rumor. We have a very good idea of that game's existence, and that project, rather, I should say, but because we just don't know anything about it, I think it's safe to say that it's not going to get a formal reveal here. And then the KOTOR remake. So we did learn, last year that the progress being made with developer Aspire was not doing too hot, and that project allegedly moved over to Saber Interactive last year. So yeah, I don't think we're going to get an update for that either, but here's one that I think we will not see, which is Death Stranding 2, if only because it seems like that would probably show up. If we're going to get another update for it, it should be at the Summer Games Fest, because that's the Jeff Keighley show. Of course, Hideo, Jeff Keighley, they're very close, and also Sony likes to give Jeff Keighley events, a few announcements here and there. It could be one thing, could be, a few things like that last one. The Game Awards had a number of announcements, which, was pretty surprising at the time, given we did not have a showcase last year. But I would just think that Death Stranding 2 would probably be reserved for Jeff Keighley's show. Now, I also don't think we're going to see this detachable disk drive PlayStation 5 if it follows the same formula that Sony normally does with these kind of things, right? Which is when they do model revisions, they don't reveal these things until they're very close to actually shipping. And at least in terms of how Sony does this during the PS5 cycle, they've not, they've done things like they've announced accessories during shows and things like that during live streams. So that's going to get into the possibility section. But in terms of actual PlayStation 5 hardware, this thing I fully expect is probably going to be some kind of, PlayStation blog post. You have to at least detail like, hey, consumers, yeah, it still looks like a normal PS5, but we have a new model coming out in like 2 weeks that's going to, offer a detachable drive. It's not something you would announce this far in advance if it is coming out in September. Obviously, this is a rumor, so all speculation, but I would not expect the detachable disk drive PS5 being announced here. That's not really exciting per se. So, but Sony's been doing so many weird things in this generation that it's been hard to predict, what they're going to be doing. So, anyway, let's get into the likely scenario. This is something where I definitely think these things should be here. I would be very surprised if these things don't come up in some way, shape, or form, or if we don't have some kind of minor update on these projects. So for likely, I think PlayStation Studios, we are definitely getting a new trailer for Spider-Man 2. I would say release date. I guess that would depend on if they want to save that release date announcement for some kind of separate thing on the PlayStation blog where they do a bunch of the, it's like a roundup on pre-order announcements and the goodies that you're going to get and special editions and whatnot. So not sure if they would include that particular trailer and blog post to go live during the showcase where there's so many other announcements. But then again, Sony doesn't really care too much about clouding up the PlayStation blog with a bunch of things, so who knows. But I mean, we should be getting an update for Spider-Man 2, no doubt about that. The game's launching this year. Then The Last of Us multiplayer, the formal reveal, which we know we're expecting an update this year, so really kind of an open and shut case. I think the question here is simply, how much are we going to see of this game? Is it something where it's going to simply be another trailer and then it says, to be announced or to be confirmed for 2024 or something? Or are they going to have this thing ready to be, released in some kind of playable state, free to play in open beta or something before the year closes out? I think that's the big question mark with The Last of Us multiplayer. Firewall Ultra, we should be getting a new trailer and confirmed release date for that as well. First Contact Entertainment has been pretty coy about this on Twitter, where they've been active and vocal about the game, but they just can't say anything because likely they're waiting to reveal this thing and talk about it more in a big way. Well, it's already revealed, but talk about it more after they have their new trailer come out for the showcase. Helldivers 2. This, allegedly, we were already supposed to see it by now because we had that trailer. Well, we didn't have the full trailer. We had a very slight snippet. Some footage was, circulating online, so we know that that game was in some sort of state that was ready to be shown and possibly released as a live service game. And it's not quite the standard. If you know what Helldivers, the first game, looks like, that's not what this one's going to be. It's a much bigger project where it's confirmed to be a third-person perspective. So this is going to be a bigger thing that, I think Arrowhead is also waiting for this PlayStation event to finally pull the curtain off of this one as well. Now, third party, I really hope this is not true, but Final Fantasy 16, a new trailer. We have seen so much of this game, so I really hope they don't throw in another 2-3 minutes at this game. We've seen enough. I'm sold on it. I think if you're not sold on it, then nothing else is going to do it for you. So really, I think it's a matter of, are we going to see more FF16, or are they going to show something for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which maybe that would also be too soon considering FF16 did not launch, but if it's not like they didn't already reveal that game next to FF16, right? So there's, Square's okay with doing some crossover with all their projects, but the more exciting prospect would be seeing Rebirth. Now, the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake. This is something that's been talked about recently because Konami was going to be at E3. E3 canceled. Konami pulling out of the event. We know they're ready to talk about things, right? So, in terms of a mashup of what's likely to be there, I would assume it's the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake by Virtuos, the Silent Hill 2 remake as well, so maybe we'll finally get a release date trailer and that game could be confirmed for shipping by the end of this year. It would be great to have that game around October or something. And I would say Castlevania, but we're going to put that in the possible category because we just don't really have any clue as to what a new Castlevania is going to look like, but that's been in the rumor mill as well. But we know that Sony has marketing rights and timed exclusivity for Silent Hill 2, and it would be the most unsurprising thing in the world if they indeed have this for Metal Gear Solid 3 as well. So I think this is very likely to show up since they were going to be at E3. Now they're out. Where are they going to show up? Probably with Sony. Now, another game that is coming out this year is Stellar Blade. So this one I think is a pretty easy W. I would be surprised if this did not show up during the showcase. Another trailer, give us a release date, something. But yeah, Stellar Blade I think would be nice to see. There's really a ton of third-party games. We could probably run through the rabbit hole of what Sony will, because that stuff's going to be here, obviously. So it's not going to be a full showcase full of first party or second party games, but there's probably a ton of things that we could talk about there. But now let's get into the possibility section, because there's a lot of games here where I'm just not quite sure which way this is going to swing, right? That's why it's possible. So for PlayStation Studios, the Horizon multiplayer game, this could be a formal reveal. We've had a pretty substantial leak, a lot of footage, key art. Maybe they're going to be ready to show that off. Same for Ghost of Tsushima 2. It's very likely that the sequel for that is progressing nicely, and perhaps they'll do, at a minimum, I could see the teaser being there for this game. Same for Blue Point Games Project. This one is really shrouded in mystery, and for good reason, because I think there's just so many possibilities based on that tweet that Blue Point put out a long time ago. We had rumors that they were working on the Bloodborne IP, then those kind of fell through. So it's been, I would say, long enough to where it's very possible Blue Point will finally talk about what they are doing. Now let's actually go back to Insomniac Games, because I was going to, I forgot about Wolverine, right? And I was going to put this game under unlikely, but because the game already had that initial teaser, right? And so as we explained, Sony is not going to shy away from doing a teaser announcement years in advance, but the game is kind of in that middle portion of, we know it exists, and now we have to wait a long time until we get a proper reveal with gameplay. I would say that we're not there yet, but this is Insomniac, where they're just wizards over there. The talent is crazy, and maybe the game is progressing nicely. So what the hey, I guess we'll throw it under possibility for now, but I'm initially inclined to say that we're not going to see Wolverine. London Studio, the Modern Fantasy London, which is a co-op multiplayer game. We had some concept art for that. I do think it's possible that they might do a slight teaser. I don't think it's going to be any sort of proper gameplay trailer or anything like that, but it's kind of one of those things where maybe it's London Studio, maybe it's Haven Studio that will show off their game, maybe it's Firewalk Studios live service game, or the Twisted Metal project from Fire Sprite. I think we should be seeing at least one of these games out of all the live service stuff that Sony has planned. In fact, we can kind of throw all four of those into the likely section, just based on one of those has to be showing up. And then Team Asobi's new game, it really depends on how large their next project is going to be. If it is, a bit smaller in scope, larger than, say, Astro's Playroom, but I could see Team Asobi being there as well, which that is really exciting, just because I love what Team Asobi has put out so far. Then there's also that, if you remember the rumor a long time ago, that gooby monster-looking game. We had an early build leaked back in January. Apparently that game is further along from, back then when that footage leaked, that footage was quite old, so the game was already much further along at that point. So perhaps we will have a proper reveal of this game. There's still a lot of unknowns with it, but I'll throw that into the possibility section. And then for third party, I think it's a fair assessment to say we're going to see a lot of PSVR2 stuff. Well, I don't know about a lot, but I should say we're going to see PSVR2 games from the talented third-party devs and independent devs that are out there. The hope, of course, is, yes, the elephant in the room, Half-Life Alyx. That would be a great announcement, but we can't say that's likely, so it's going to be a possibility for sure. But there's a lot of other games we've seen in recent state of plays and things like that, or things that we need an update on. So Pacific Drive was in that one state of play, which seems really cool, so it'd be great to see that again. Little Devil Inside, that's another one where we absolutely could use an update. That thing has been just chugging along. We had a new trailer not that long ago, or at least it didn't feel that long ago, but sure enough, all this time has passed and we still don't have anything in terms of that game actually coming out. Bokeh Game Studio, you know, they had that new trailer for, well, they revealed Slitterhead a while ago at this point, so maybe they've got a new trailer. Wouldn't be exactly shocking. They've got a good relationship with Sony, so based on the talent at that studio. Pragmata, I mean, where's this, right? Like from Capcom, that game has been delayed twice now, so it was already at the first, that was the Future of Games showcase with the first PS5 reveal, so Pragmata, come on, let's see that game. But we'll throw it in the possibility section. Also, Alan Wake 2, that would be a great place to show a new trailer. But now going back to the unlikely detachable disk drive PS5, because again, just historically how Sony has done this over a 25-year period with multiple different leadership roles, you know, changing over, and they've consistently always done this where even when it's a proper PlayStation model revision, a slimmed down console or something, they still do not actually show that thing or talk about it until it's a few weeks out from being released. PS4 Pro was, I think, the furthest out in a long time, right, in terms of, and that was kind of an outlier, obviously. The point is, I think that's unlikely, but what we have seen Sony do when it comes to live streams in the PS5 era is they will make service-related announcements. They won't make a big deal about it. They'll usually do a trailer or just briefly say, this game's launching on PS Plus. You know, they'll do that, or as we saw during the initial PS5 reveal, or like during the, what was it, the Game Awards. I mean, we saw them announce PlayStation accessories, so things like the DualSense Edge or the lineup of PS5 accessories at launch. And so we've had rumors recently about a new headset, earbuds. Of course, we do know about Project Leonardo back from CES, also the Q Lite remote play device. So perhaps those things will show up here. I'm going to say that's a possibility. And in terms of PlayStation Plus, I mean, maybe they'll make some kind of PS Plus game announcement there, but this could be a great scenario to also finally confirm PS5 server blades. Maybe do a small minute-and-a-half something trailer for a new perk on PlayStation Plus Premium, which is streaming PlayStation 5 games from that subscription tier, you know, and maybe make not a big deal out of it, but, you know, just kind of outline the benefits of now being able to finally stream PS5 games, and all those PS5 server blades are now going to be replacing the PS4 units, since they can basically run PlayStation 4 games as well. I mean, that's just kind of like a logistical thing that I think the company is working towards. We had rumors that the last major firmware was supposed to include PS5 server blades and proper PlayStation 5 game streaming, so gotta figure it's around the corner. You never know. Again, streaming is kind of a logistical thing that takes a long time to put together. That's why there's still certain countries that doesn't have it. But having said that, perhaps that will be shown off at this live stream as well. Now that is more or less everything that I could rattle off, or what I could think of for the most part. I'm sure I'm forgetting certain things, but, you know, for likely, unlikely, possible, that's a lot of what I've been, you know, thinking about for a while now. But, you know, we finally have the event confirmed. That's the good news, and this should be the big one, where we know Sony's lineup for PS5 thus far. What's confirmed is very light. We've got high volume years for this console coming up where Sony's going to be selling a ton of them. This is where you want to fire off on every cylinder for these big projects that these teams are working on. So this is one of those occasions where it's not just a simple state of play. It's not one of those set expectations. It should be a big one, and we'll just have to hope that Sony is going to deliver. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you haven't just yet, please consider subscribing for the best PlayStation news, reviews, and updates that are here on YouTube. You can also follow me on Twitter @MysticRyan, and that is it. I will see you all in my next video. You take it easy.